The month is officially over, and that means it's time for a wrap up. Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex, and today is the February 2025 wrap up. I know I've been inconsistent. I know. I'm really feeling it. I'm really going through it, you guys. I don't really know how else to explain it. February was a really difficult month, and I cannot really tell you why. And it's not because like I'm keeping secrets or whatever. One, I don't think it's that interesting, but two, I don't really know what my problem was for February. The closest I can get is that I've been put on new medications, and it has taken a really long time for them to start working, number one, and number two, for me to like get used to them. The balance has just not been it, okay? I'm just not where I want to be. I'm not where I should be. Everything just feels like a lot all of a sudden. I don't know. So I'm sorry that I've been inconsistent. I'm sorry this is coming to you pretty late. But it is what it is, and I'm here now, and I would like to share with you what I read in February. Before we get into it, make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week-ish. And all we do on this channel is talk about books. If you like listening to people talk about books, here I am doing just that for you. So, just a moment to go over my rating system, and then we will get into what I read. 5 stars is best of the best. I absolutely loved it. No notes. 4 stars means I still really liked it, but I had a few issues. Maybe the pace wasn't that good. Maybe there were plot holes, something like that. Something that just didn't get it kicked up to the 5-star rating. 3 stars means I didn't like it, but it was a subjectivity issue, which means it just wasn't the right book for me, but I could see somebody else really enjoying it. 2-star means I did not like it, and there were fundamental issues. I probably won't recommend it to somebody because it had like really big issues. 1 star is worst of the worst. I'll never recommend it to anybody, and the author is probably going to go on a blacklist for me that I may never read them again. That's how bad the book was. I reserve my 1-star ratings for like books that have a lot of racism, homophobia, ableism. And when I say all that, I'm not like afraid to read books that have that have like trauma in them. These are books that like glorify or like are written in such a way that makes racism sound appealing, or it's okay to be racist or homophobic or something like that. That's what I mean when I say that. It means that it's shedding like a positive light on these things, and that's not something that I'm going to enjoy. This rating is also reserved for books that glorify grooming or underage sex, things like that. Not trauma-based books. Books that are like saying, oh, it's okay to like groom a 13-year-old into being my girlfriend when she's 18. Things like that. I don't enjoy reading things like that. I don't think books like that should be encouraged to be read by especially younger audiences. But yeah, the book has to be pretty bad for me to give it a 1 star. And yeah, nobody has a 1 star today, so don't have to worry about that. I will tell you, I did not get as much reading done in February as I wanted. Number one, because I was having a lot of my own issues, but number two was because I was really booked out with work. Work really picked up for me. I took some time off in December to be with my family, and like when you take time off like from freelancing, sometimes it takes a while to get the ball rolling back up again, and it really started rolling in February, and I was swamped with work. So yeah, things have slowed down in March. I have not picked back up though. Yeah, personally, like I'm still getting back to myself, I would say. I have 2 titles to share with you today. This has been the longest intro ever. I'm so sorry. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. The first book I read in February was The Black Queen by Jumata Emill. I talked about this book a lot in the Maybe series because I was so excited about this book. February is Black History Month, so I wanted to make sure I had one book at least on my lineup that was by a Black author, and here it is. The reason I was so excited about this is because Jumata Emill has a background in crime journalism, so I thought this was going to be very like almost like true crime-ish, but with a fiction edge to it. It wasn't. Let me get into the premise before I start talking about how I felt about this book. we have a small, predominantly white town that has been integrated with another school. Like, the schools have been integrated after Hurricane Katrina, if I'm remembering correctly. And so basically we have this kind of like all white high school that's integrating with this all black high school. There's lots of racial tension in this book. And the biggest racial tension happens when they change the rules for who can become homecoming queen. And the homecoming queen ends up being this young black girl that's depicted on the cover, which is like a huge step forward for the black community in this town. And the white people in this community seem very upset that this has happened. On the night of her crowning, she disappears, and the next morning she is found dead in the local slave cemetery, where she spends a lot of her time doing extracurricular cleaning activities. And that is kind of where we pick up. The main suspect is the girl that was running against her as homecoming queen, and we are following along her, the young woman that was up against her for homecoming queen, and the woman on the front page, the girl, her best friend, as they try and figure out what actually happened that night. When I tell you all, I read this book incredibly quickly, and then it took me the entire month to decide how I felt about this book. I still don't really know how I feel about it. I still don't really know. This book had me feeling way too many negative things, and I just could not pinpoint what the problem was with this book, okay? Finally, after I sat with it for like weeks, okay, I finally got on and read the reviews, because I didn't want to be like too quick about getting on and reading the reviews, because the reviews for this, like, rating wise were pretty good. So I was like, everybody really loved it. Why didn't I love it? So then I get into the reviews, and I decided to read only reviews that were written by black women, and you could just tell by their picture, because I felt like I needed somebody else's opinion besides mine, okay, you know, that looks like this, because I was like, there's obviously something I'm not getting. There's something that's not sitting right with me, and I don't understand what it is. So I wanted to hear from the people who didn't like it, and all the people who didn't like it were black women. So I read all their reviews. And I agree with all of them. I finally figured out why I didn't like this book. Because this book follows the girl that's running against her for her homecoming queen, right? Who is white. And right away, lots of racial tension in this book, okay? And right away, the other girl that's running against her is very racist. She says a lot of really crappy things. She acts a certain way. Her family acts a certain way. And on the page, you're like, yeah, she's not a good person. And then when she gets blamed for killing this young black girl on homecoming night, you're like, yeah, that fits. Look at who she is. And so right away, as I'm reading this book, I don't have a lot of sympathy for this girl, okay? She ends up being the main character of the book. This racist white girl who's being blamed for killing this girl that's on the cover ends up being the main character of the book. And when you pick up this book, there is a black girl on the cover. It's called The Black Queen. You expect this book to be centered around a black girl, right? A woman of color. That's what you're expecting when you pick this up. You're not expecting to be solving a crime. Well, you do expect to be solving a crime. You don't expect to be solving a crime involving the person that's being accused, that's a racist, and that by the end of the book, you're supposed to like her. You're supposed to change your entire viewpoint of her and say, see, she's not that bad. It was all a misunderstanding. And you're supposed to take pity on this white girl after this black girl gets killed for being black, basically. So yeah, that was in, these other women had put this into perspective for me so that I could see it, because I was like, why can't I get into this book? Why can't I like it? And that was why. It was basically a book about white privilege being explained to someone that has white privilege. That's not what I was expecting when I picked up this book. When I saw the cover, when I read the description, I was not expecting to get a lesson in white privilege explained to the person that has all of the white privilege. I didn't expect to go on this like journey with this young racist girl about outgrowing generational racism. That's not really what I was expecting, but that's what we had, okay? On the flip side of that, the thriller part of this book was really good. I think that the murder mystery part of this book, like solving this murder, was really interesting. There were a lot of twists along the way that I really didn't see coming. It was very overshadowed, though, by this alternate storyline about making us feel bad for white supremacists. It also just made me feel bad about being a white person, which, like, that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help anything. Me feeling guilt about that helps nobody. But I did feel bad reading this book. And I think it was because I felt sympathy for the main character. I didn't want to sympathize with her. She was not a good person. She did a lot of really crappy things. And by the end of the book, we're just supposed to be like, see, she learned something. She's going to be a better person. So this book did not work for me. I was really disappointed. And then we had a side character who was the homecoming queen's best friend, who was also a woman of color, and she was gay. There was a lot of really good representation from her side of the story. She was not on the page enough. She was not on the page enough. And every time she was on the page, I felt like she was just yelling. And we weren't really having any really good conversations, which could have happened from her point of view because she had a lot to share. She had a lot to share. And I felt like her voice was drowned out by the other half of the story that we were getting pushed a lot. I did see in the reviews that some people really liked this for their younger kids, like their teenagers, because it did have a lot of lessons about like talking to people and opening up to people and maybe giving space for people who need space. But I am not interested in giving space to people who treat minorities like crap. I am not willing to give space to people like that. Maybe it teaches younger kids to like how to approach people like that in case they want to be led a different way. Because again, this book deals with a lot of generational racism, and I think it showcases that people are taught to act this way. They don't naturally act this way. And so like maybe you could take it as a teaching point that everybody could outlearn racism. But I felt like a reach to me. It did. I would say I don't even know. I don't know who I would recommend this to. I gave it 3 stars. And I know that's probably a little bit higher than you're thinking since I sat here and bashed it quite a bit. The thriller part of it, the mystery part of it was done really well. It was just not what I wanted, not what I was expecting. I expected this to be about a black girl as she was putting up with these negative things that were happening in her life. I was expecting her story, not some very rich white girl story about how she learns how to not be racist. I thought that the premise of the book was very deceiving for the content. If you've read this, I'd love to know what you think. Again, the thriller part, the mystery part, I really liked. That's probably why it's getting the bigger rating, like, because this could easily be a 2 for me. I don't think I'm going to read Jumata and Emill again. I think that's why it gets the bigger rating for me, because I really did enjoy the mystery of it. But everything else was just, it was a lot that I wasn't really wanting to read. So, yeah, I encourage you to look into that, I guess. If you've read it and you felt similar about it, I'd love to hear from you. But, yeah, there it is. Like I said, I only read, or I guess I didn't tell you guys, I only read 2 books in February. One, because the Black Queen book really put me in a bad mood, okay? When I tell you guys, I read that really quickly, and then I didn't read anything for a long time after that because I was so upset about it. I don't know. I didn't feel right inside myself. And then I had to move on to my book club book because I run a book club. And we ended up reading Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. And so I was like, I have to start this book because it's sort of large. And then by the time I finished this book, there was like 2 days left in February. And I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm done. I can't. I cannot try and push a book into the last 2 days. And by that time, I was really burnt down on work. I was really tired. I was just struggling mentally, okay? So let's talk about Remarkably Bright Creatures. I feel like people probably know what this book is about. It's insanely popular. Like, everybody was reading it when it first came out. But I'll tell you a little bit about it anyway. We are following a few characters as they move through different parts of their life. We have a young man who's kind of like hit the bottom of the barrel. His girlfriend kicked him out. He keeps losing jobs. He doesn't have anywhere to go. And he finally gets a lead on maybe finding out who his biological father is. He was raised by an aunt. His mother kind of abandoned him when he was younger. And he says, you know what, I'm going to go to, I think it's Seattle. Could be Portland though. Now I can't remember. He's like, I'm going to go and I'm going to find this guy once and for all. I want to know what this guy has to say for himself, etc., etc. Then we're following an older woman who is the night janitor at an aquarium. I feel like it's Sorrow Bay. Could be wrong about that too. But she is the night janitor there, and she is getting to a point where she's like, maybe I should retire. Maybe I should move. She's had a lot of hardships in her life, and now she finds herself very much alone, and she's deciding what her next step in her life should be. And then we are also following Marcellus, who is an octopus at the aquarium. Also nearing the end of his life, and he gets into a lot of mischief. Somehow all three of these stories end up colliding, and we get this sort of big montage of stories that all come together at the end. So right away, Marcellus was the star of the show. I absolutely loved the octopus in this story. And we talked about this in my book club because it was like, never did I think that I would enjoy a POV from an octopus, but here we are. Marcellus stole the show because everybody else's point of view I did not look forward to. When Marcellus came onto the page, I was like, oh, here we go. This is it. I did this on audiobook and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the actor that voiced Marcellus. I think he did that brilliantly. As for the rest of the book, meh. Because it was about 100 pages too long. I don't know. About at the halfway point, I was like, I figured everything out. And I had. And then I just had to wait around very patiently for everything to come together and the story to end. This is what I would call contemporary fiction, which is not something I read that often because it's just a story. There's no thriller aspect to it. There's no mystery aspect to it. There's not a romance aspect to it. It just is happening. I also found the male character, I think his name is Connor, to be just a lot, I guess. Like, I'm not going to discredit that he kind of had a crappy childhood, but he was still raised by someone who very much loved him and adored him. He had a safe, happy home. I don't get where all of the negativity about his life was coming from, honestly, because he always just kind of pointed back to this one bad thing that happened to him a really long time ago as being the reason why he couldn't get his life together. And I'm like, bro, just get your life together. Like, this happened a long time ago. Like 20 years ago. Happened a long time ago. It's time for you to decide how your life's gonna go. Are you really gonna let something that happened to you 20 years ago be the thing that keeps you from being happy the rest of your life? It's already kept you unhappy for 20 years. Are you gonna keep that up for another 40 years? Like, there were just a lot of moments in the book where I'm like, Bro needs therapy because he's obviously not dealing with anything on his own. And I was just sort of disappointed in that character because he just sort of couldn't get over himself. He couldn't get over his issues enough to like have a good life. Now, his arc ended up working out, okay? It did. But I just like, why is this taking so long? Everything in this book seemed to take a really long time. The pace for me was atrocious. I had a hard time staying interested in this. I like literally forced myself to put the audiobook on every time I made dinner because I was making no progress on it. And I was like, just put it on while you're making dinner. You have to because you're not making enough movement. You're not going to finish it in time. We need to get this done. And I went down to the wire on this book. Like, it was due within 12 hours and I finished it, kind of thing. Which I never do. I never let them get down that close. I could not get into this book. I could not. And so the wildly positive reviews on this book, I don't get. I don't see what everybody else was seeing. I don't get why everyone was so in love with this book. And I feel like everyone on my book club kind of felt the same. Like, we all just said it was okay. I ended up giving it 3 stars. A lot of people enjoyed it. I think if you like contemporary fiction, it may just be that I don't read enough contemporary fiction because it's like just did not hold my interest at all. And like I said, I had some trouble with the male main character, him being likable. It was very difficult for me to like him. The other storyline with the older woman that was the janitor, it was just a stagnant storyline. There was just not a lot happening on the page for her. She was just there a lot. And then Marcellus definitely kept this book alive for me, like listening to the octopus. Really made me happy. So yeah, that is why I did not get the 2 stars, is because I loved Marcellus. So yeah, 3 stars. Here it is. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. This was like the saddest wrap up ever. February was a hard month, okay? And I had 2 books that I didn't even really like that much, and I forced myself to get through them, and here we are. That did not kick March off very pleasantly. I will say now we're like over halfway into March. It did not kick March off that easily, because then I was worried, like, man, it's been a while since I've had a couple bad ones, and I was already like feeling a bit sluggish about reading anyway. And I had 2 bad books in a row that took up the majority of my time in February, and I wasn't having a good time with them. And so then I was like, what if I pick another bad one? I felt like the pressure was really on for March because, like, what if I picked another bad one and then I put myself in a reading slump? So yeah, that's kind of how I ended February and went into March. And here we are. I'm not going to talk to you guys much longer because I've been on here forever, it feels like. But yeah, make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know I'm posting. I post every week. The giveaway that I do every year on my channel is coming up. I'll have more information on that in the next post. But yeah, I'm excited about the giveaway. It always goes really well every year. So yeah, hopefully you guys will stick around and enter that. That's all I have for you guys today. So I will see you all next time. Bye!